everybody, welcome back to another Quake 2 re-release modding tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be doing a quick hello world, sort of getting started with coding. I'm going to show you how to add a new weapon to the game of Quake 2, which I think is probably a pretty common thing you might want to do. So let's crack straight into the code here. So we're going to open up our solution and go straight to g_items.cpp. At the very top of this file, we're going to add our function signature for our weapon. So we have weapon_pistol here. If we scroll down a little bit towards the bottom middle of this this code, we will find this item list. This is an array of structs, this g_item_t, and we're going to look for sort of the bottom of the weapon items that are being declared, and that's where we're going to put our pistol. So you can see here, this is the struct for our pistol. I'm going to go through these sort of line by line to tell you what's going on here, but this is the code you're going to want to add. So first off, you have the ID of the weapon, and we're going to set up that ID in just a second, but it's going to be it_weapon_pistol. Then we have the class name, self-explanatory. Pick up and use and drop are all different functions that are going to be called when these things happen. In our case, I'm putting a null here for drop, which means nothing's going to be called when you drop it. Weaponthink is the sort of main loop of our weapon. When you see think in the Quake engine games, what that's really saying is sort of the update loop. That's going to be called, if in like Unity terms, for instance, that would be the fixed update. We have the pickup sound, so this is just pointing to where this wave file is, and same with these models. I'll show you where these models and sounds are kept at the end of this tutorial, and this is you can replace these with your own or add your own sounds and weapon models, but we're not going to do that in this tutorial. We're just going to use the blaster for what the weapon looks like and sounds like. The world model, by the way, is the model of the weapon as it's out in the map. So when you see it and you go to pick it up, that's the world model. And it's going to rotate around and bob up and down like you've seen in deathmatch games. The view model is the model of the weapon in first person with your hands. The icon, self-explanatory, use name. Quantity is how much you pick up when you pick it up. The ammo is what kind of ammo it uses. In this case, it uses these ammo bullet items. The flags are that it's a weapon. It stays around in co-op. It's not random. The V weapon model is the model that you see other characters run around with if they have this gun. Armor info is just a special thing for armor type items. Pre-caches, I should say. You can just tell Quake to pre-cache certain sounds or models when this weapon comes up. Okay, so the next place I want you to go is g_local.h. And here we have our list enumeration of item IDs. And this is where we're going to add that it_weapon_pistol. If you scroll down a little bit more, we're going to look for these MOD IDs. So this is a means of death. This is for displaying, kind of what comes up on the screen when somebody gets killed by something. And we need to add a means of death for our pistol. Next, we're going to open p_client.cpp. And again, we're going to search for this means of death. And there's this little switch case here. And we need to add one for the pistol. And this is basically just the message that's going to pop up when somebody gets killed by the pistol. So here's where the real meat of the code is going to be coming up next. So open up p_weapon.cpp. Scroll down to the very bottom, and we're going to add a couple functions. First is pistol_fire. So this is the code that happens, funny enough, when you click the button to go and fire your pistol. So there's a couple things we need to kind of keep track of here. So we're setting our damage amount and the amount that the screen's going to kick kind of at a base, and we'll see how the kicking works in a second here. I'm not going to explain this line by line, but we'll go over the important bits here. So to start off with, what do you do when the user isn't actually pressing the attack button? We just keep advancing the frames on the model, and we can just leave this function. We're not actually going to fire the pistol. Next, we have to take care of what do we do when there's no more ammo. The user doesn't have the right type of ammo for this weapon. We call this generic no ammo weapon change, which is just basically if you have no ammo, it's going to make like a weapon click noise, and then it's going to swap your weapon out for another weapon in your inventory that you do have ammo for. If we're under quad damage, we're just going to multiply the damage by 4 and also the kick by 4. Next, speaking of kick, this is where we're going to calculate the kick angles. So we're going to calculate 3 angles. You need an origin and the angles themselves. And we call this function p add weapon kick, and we give them our arrays of vectors that we've created there by using a random number and multiplying it by this factor. Next, we need to know where the bullets are coming from and where they're going to go. So we call this handy function project source, and we say, who we are, what's our view angle right now. We give it a little offset, and then it will place those vectors. It'll calculate our source and our direction and place it into these variables here. Then there's these lag compensate and unlag compensate. This is something new in the re-release code. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. I guess it's what the name implies. It's doing some kind of lag compensation. Finally here though, in between those, we actually fire the bullet. This is a generic function for firing hit scan weapons within the game. So when you see bullet in the game, it's really treating those not as a projectile, but just as a hit scan. And so it's just going to fire out a ray at the angles and in the direction that we tell it to. And if it hits something, it's going to apply that damage. It's going to kick the screen like so, and over a certain spread. What's important is we give it the message of death here that we created for our pistol. And then you have the weapon power-up sound. It's going to try to find a power-up sound for the weapon. And then finally, it's going to, we need this GI code for creating an appropriate muzzle flash for when the weapon gets fired. Player noise means noise for the AI to pick up. So if we fire the gun, a monster in a room, if it's close enough, we'll hear it and start hunting the player. And then to end up with, we remove ammo as appropriate from our gun. So that's really all of the complicated code for actually firing our gun. There's one more thing we need to do. Remember that weapon function that we created earlier in g_items. This is where this is going to come into play here. So this is the body of that function. And basically, what we're defining here are the animation frames for our weapon. So these are just a copy of the blaster weapon because we're using the blaster model. But what we're doing here in GIST, so if you were to replace it with your own model, you'd want to put in the frames for when you're firing and these pause frames. And so there's a generic function that's basically all the weapons in the game do these same things. Not all the weapons, but all the generic weapons. So this function just needs to know the last frame that the weapon is active, the last frame of the fire animation, the last frame of the idle animation, the last frame of the deactivate animation, and then these array of pause frames and fire frames, just so it knows what animations to play when those events happen. And those are very common weapon events, and that's why we have this weapon generic. And that's it. That's all of the code for creating your own pistol. So once again, go ahead and build your project. Remember to find your DLL that you just created and put it at the base of your mod directory. And then we can fire up Quake 2, pointing to our my mod. And again, I showed you how to do all that in our last tutorial. And once in, we're going to just load whatever. And in the console, we're going to type these commands. We're going to say give bullets and give pistol. So here's our pistol. We have bullets, and we can shoot it. My pistol's a little different because it actually shoots projectiles and is not a hit scan weapon. So that might be a nice sort of homework assignment, is figure out how to do that on your own. I think actual projectiles are more fun than hit scans. Nobody likes hit scans. And I have hit scans, and the enemies who fire bullets are also actually firing projectiles as well. So I said we'd circle back around to where these sounds and models are located and where you can add your own. So you can find a program called a pack explorer for Quake 2. And what the pack is, it's a file that sits in your base Quake 2 directory. It's basically like a zip file, and that's where all of the basically game assets are stored for the game. So you can add your own in there and reference them in the code, just like that. And that's it. So hope you had fun. Let me know if there's another Quake 2 tutorial you'd like to see. Otherwise, have fun. Leave a like if you want. Let me know what kind of project you're looking at, and if you have any questions, and I'll try to get back to you. Thanks.